breaking news this morning of this FBI raid in Houston.
Yeah, to give you an idea of where this is, it's off the Gulf Freeway near Cullen, east of the freeway. Our TJ Parker is joining us live. TJ, what's going on out there?
Well, HPD just showed up in the past hour or so. They were called out to assist. We called them asking what was going on. They tell us that it has something to do with some type of a smuggling case, but FBI has been out here for quite some time.
This morning, federal authorities delivered a briefing that sounded less like an update and more like a warning. At 3:09 a.m. Central Time, a coordinated federal operation hit the port of Houston, Texas, targeting a Mexican cartel-linked smuggling corridor embedded inside legitimate cargo systems. 6 tons of heroin confiscated. 12 assault weapons were recovered. 41 suspects taken into custody across Harris County and Galveston County. And 23 port access credentials, badges that open gates, yards, and secure lanes, were revoked before sunrise. Investigators are calling it one of the most dangerous port infiltrations uncovered in the United States in recent years. Not because narcotics were moving through the docks, but because the network wasn't hiding in the shadows. It was hiding in plain sight, inside schedules, manifests, and routine inspections. This is not a story about street dealers. This is about a port smuggling boss who treated American infrastructure like a private pipeline. And if it can happen here, at one of the busiest ports in the country, then it can happen anywhere. Stay with this, because the next part goes deeper than drugs. 3:09 a.m., Port of Houston. The air tastes like salt and diesel. Giant cranes stand over the ship channel like metal skeletons, frozen in the fog. Stacked containers form steel canyons, silent, dark, endless, and somewhere between the rumble of distant generators and the hiss of hydraulic lines, the port looks like it's sleeping. But it isn't. Because at 3:09, black SUVs roll in with headlights low, FBI tactical teams, DIA diversion squads, ICE enforcement units, DEACE special agents, port security liaisons, SWAT teams in helmets and plate carriers, moving in disciplined lines with night vision and suppressed urgency. They don't hit one location, they hit many. A bonded warehouse near the turning basin, a container yard controlled by a private subcontractor, a customs brokerage office operating out of a plain building with tinted windows, a truck dispatch lot that never looked suspicious, because trucks are supposed to be there, and a pair of waterfront storage units rented under shell company names that changed every 6 months like clockwork. The first breach is clean and fast. A steel door buckles under a hydraulic ram. Flashbang light blooms across the concrete, white hot, violent, instantaneous. Shouts, commands, boots, the hard clack of rifles shifting into position. Federal agents. Down, hands visible. Inside the bonded warehouse, forklifts sit parked like abandoned animals. Pallets of legitimate cargo stand in neat grids. But the agents are not looking at the pallets. They're looking at the floor plan. Because they already know where the fake wall is. They already know where the overflow section is. They already know which containers were tagged low risk by someone who shouldn't have had that authority. A panel comes off. A hidden corridor appears. And behind it, shrink-wrapped bundles stacked tight, heavy, uniform. Heroin. Not a few kilos. Not a few bags. Tons. The kind of quantity that turns neighborhoods into graveyards. The kind of quantity that doesn't move without help. In the container yard, another team moves like a blade between rows of steel boxes. A crane operator's cabin is lit from within. A man inside freezes when he sees the silhouettes. He reaches for a radio. He doesn't get to finish. Agents breach the cabin door and drag him out, face down, hands cuffed. In a nearby pickup, a duffel bag is found stuffed with cash, burner phones, and a laminated port badge, issued under a name that doesn't exist. And then, the first gun is found. An assault weapon wrapped in oilcloth, hidden in a false compartment behind a stack of cargo straps. Then another. Then another. By the time the inventory begins, 12 assault weapons are laid out on a table under harsh industrial light. Rifles with extended magazines, unregistered, ready to move with the narcotics. This isn't just a drug pipeline. It's an armed logistics network. And at 3:41 a.m., the operation delivers its first twist. Inside a locked office at the customs brokerage building, behind filing cabinets labeled with routine paperwork, agents locate a steel box bolted to the floor. Inside are encrypted hard drives, handwritten ledgers, and a stack of container release codes, authorization sequences that can clear cargo without triggering normal holds. The codes are dated, timed, and signed with a symbol that keeps appearing across the evidence. Not a name, a mark, a ring boss's mark. One agent looks at another and says what everyone is thinking. This isn't just smuggling. This is control. 6:18 a.m., FBI Cyber Forensics Unit, downtown Houston. A secure room, no windows, multiple screens. Analysts move fast, but not frantic, because panic is how mistakes happen. Hard drives are imaged, phones are cloned, encrypted chats are reconstructed like broken bones being set back into place. And then it appears. A network diagram expanding across the screens, nodes, lines, color-coded roles. A plan with a code name that wasn't meant for public ears. Operation Black Tide. The diagram is not just a map of criminals. It's a map of systems. Shell companies registered under freight consulting names. Ghost corporations posing as port maintenance contractors. Sham charities used for disaster relief shipments. Restaurant chains and car washes that never existed to serve food or clean cars, only to wash money. Offshore accounts in layered jurisdictions. Domestic accounts disguised as payroll. Transfers sliced into small amounts to avoid alarms. Then, recombined into one stream. A river of dirty money flowing through clean institutions. And at the center of it all sits one man, known on the network only as El Ingeniero del Muelle, the dock engineer. A port smuggling ringleader. A network boss who doesn't have to touch drugs to move them. His encrypted authorization key appears on container reroutes, on inspection delays, on maintenance windows that mysteriously appear during the exact hours a convoy rolls out. His signature is not ink. It's access. This is not corruption. This is command-level collusion. This is not negligence. This is engineered treason against the logistics that keep a nation alive. And if that sounds dramatic, ask this question. How many doors have to be opened from the inside for 6 tons of heroin to walk out of a U.S. port? The next phase is worse, because the port was only the front gate. 5:52 a.m., Joint Task Force Command Center near the ship channel. A massive digital map fills the wall. Red markers pulse across Houston, Pasadena, Baytown, Galveston, and stretching outward along the I-10 and I-45 corridors like arteries. Each marker is a node, a stash warehouse, a cut house, a safe apartment, a trucking subcontractor yard, a corrupt security consulting office, a fuel depot where shipments disappear into routine, a port access credential office where badges are issued like candy if the right person approves the request. The mission is unified. Over 1,000 federal agents and support personnel are mobilized across agencies and partner units. Dozens of SWAT teams, armored vehicles for high-risk targets, aerial support platforms monitoring exits and highways, maritime units locking down sensitive stretches of the channel. This isn't one raid. It's an eradication sweep, and it begins before the city wakes up. In Baytown, a nondescript warehouse is breached and found packed with packaging equipment, industrial heat sealers, vacuum systems, press molds, and chemical masking agents meant to confuse drug-sniffing dogs. In Pasadena, a fleet services lot is hit and multiple tractor trailers are found with modified compartments, Steel plates welded into places that inspection cameras don't easily reach. In Galveston County, a waterfront property is raided, marketed as a weekend escape, but functioning as a control hub with radios, surveillance monitors, and detailed schedules of port rotations. Near the freeway, a convoy tries to move. 2 SUVs, a box truck, a lead vehicle running interference. They don't make it far. Tire spikes. Blocking units, agents moving in, fast and clean, weapons trained, voices cutting through the dawn. Suspects go prone. Cuffs click shut, and inside the box truck are more bundles, part of the same flow. More heroin, more packaging, more proof that the port wasn't an entry point. It was a distribution engine. By midday, the updated totals are staggering. 6 tons of heroin secured as evidence, 12 assault weapons seized, multiple server racks and communication hubs taken intact, dozens of accounts frozen, key operators arrested, and the underworld takes more damage in 6 hours than it has in the last 6 years. Because the cartel doesn't just lose product, it loses trust, it loses infrastructure, it loses the illusion that the port belongs to them. 11:26 a.m. Evidence review floor, federal processing site. Investigators move through the seized materials like miners moving through a collapsed tunnel. Careful, methodical, aware that one wrong move can bury the truth. Server logs, badge scans, gate entry records, truck GPS histories, union dispatch schedules, internal emails that were never meant to leave the building. A pattern emerges. Inspections relaxed at the exact same times each week. Certain containers flagged green without proper review. Specific gates used repeatedly, always with the same security shift. Patrol grids adjusted for construction. Cameras redirected for calibration. And an internal leak problem so severe that suspects were moving cash and phones minutes before certain hits, until the task force tightened the circle and went silent. The infiltration isn't theoretical. It's measurable. It has timestamps. And it has names. A handful of compromised personnel inside the port ecosystem, security supervisors, dispatch coordinators, a credential office clerk, a contractor foreman, each one paid in different ways. Cash drops, gifted vehicles, debt relief, crypto transfers routed through laundering fronts. One honest port security officer, interviewed after the arrests, can't hide the betrayal. You don't expect the badge scanner to be the weak point, he says. You don't expect the schedule to be the weapon. But that's the lesson. The cartel didn't just infiltrate enforcement. It tried to become enforcement. A parallel system. A second gatekeeper. A private border inside an American port. And federal agents begin taking senior figures into custody. People who weren't supposed to be suspects. A security planner. A mid-level supervisor with clearance privileges, a contractor liaison who controlled the keys to entire sections of the yard. The message is clear. The badge will be rebuilt from the ground up, because a port cannot function on fear and bribery. Not if the country expects to survive what moves through it. 2:04 p.m. Strategic briefing, undisclosed federal facility. The map zooms out. Houston is not a dot. It's a hub. Shipping lanes from the Gulf connect to corridors across the country, interstates, rail yards, distribution centers. And the evidence shows the Mexican cartel wasn't just using Houston for Texas. It was using Houston as a national artery. Trucking contractors moved shipments north disguised as commercial freight. Manifests were altered to create ghost weight, numbers that look normal on paper. Way stations on certain routes were under maintenance at the exact windows convoys traveled. Cargo inspections were timed to shift changes and weekends. And in at least 2 instances, legitimate humanitarian shipments were used as cover. Because nothing looks more untouchable than a box that says it's meant to help people. The network could move hundreds of kilograms per week without tripping standard alarms, sometimes more. And the heroin wasn't the only commodity. The same route was used to move cash southbound. Weapons northbound. People in the shadows. Human trafficking linked to forced labor at logistics fronts. Migrant smuggling used as distraction and leverage. The cartel understands chaos. It creates chaos. Then it hides inside it. Then the final file appears on the screen, pulled from an encrypted drive recovered at the brokerage office. A staged plan. A phase outline. Not just how to ship drugs, how to permanently embed influence into port operations for the next decade. Recruitment targets. Credential office infiltration. Security contract acquisitions. Political donation pathways through shell foundations. A blueprint for ownership. One analyst says it out loud, because saying it makes it real. They weren't infiltrating the port, they were redesigning it. That is the chilling realization. This wasn't a network that wanted to sneak past the system. It wanted to replace the system. This is the part most people don't want to hear. Power doesn't always show up with gunfire. Sometimes it shows up with paperwork. Sometimes it shows up with a badge printer, a clipboard, a schedule, and a smile. And in this fictional story, a cartel-linked boss used those tools to turn one of America's most critical ports into a drug corridor. 6 tons of heroin is not just a number. It's overdoses. It's families broken. It's neighborhoods hollowed out. It's kids growing up in homes where grief becomes normal. And when assault weapons travel with narcotics, it means the cartel isn't just selling poison. It's protecting its pipeline with firepower. This story is a warning about infiltration, about organized crime, about what happens when ambition meets silence. If you're still watching, tap like so more people see this story. Comment expose if you want corruption dragged into the light, no matter where it hides. And share it with someone who thinks the threat only lives at the border or only lives in back alleys. Because sometimes the most dangerous corridor is the one that looks like business as usual.